An intense battle unfolds as the elf struggles against a powerful beast. She attempts to hold her ground, but the monster interrupts her thoughts, slashing its weapon with such ferocity that she is sent flying back. As she struggles to keep her eyes open, a sudden shout cuts through the chaos. The boy unleashes fourth-tier magic, firing a lightning bolt that incinerates the beast instantly. The elf is stunned by the overwhelming display of power. The boy rushes over to check on her condition, but her injuries are severe and she quickly loses consciousness. As she drifts into a deep sleep, fragmented memories flash through her mind. She eventually wakes up in a safe location, disoriented and scanning her surroundings. The boy, sitting by a campfire, greets her with a cheerful morning salutation. The elf is confused, her last memory being the fight with the dungeon boss. He explains that the boss of the Dark Corridors has been successfully converted into experience points. He claims that while she was busy distracting the monster, he had plenty of time to charge his magic, making the victory an easy task. Sensing her wariness, he suggests she lower her murderous intent. He insists he only saved her for the experience points, okay, though he foolishly jokes about having a few other fantasies. Unamused, the elf grabs his leg and slams him into the ground, ignoring his pathetic pleas for mercy. After the dust settles, she notices a bandage carefully wrapped around her hand. Despite his crying over the slam, she offers him a sincere thanks for the treatment. However, he ruins the moment by admitting that moving her around in her compromised state was a lucky coincidence, teasing that he saw a little more than he should have. Flustered and blushing, she listens as he backpedals, claiming it wasn't enough to fall in love, just a happy accident. Changing the subject, the elf asks about her former companions. The boy somberly reveals that it was too late to save them. He then deduces her identity as a war slave from the lost errant tribe. When he jokingly threatens to force her into a new slave contract, she prepares to submit, causing him to panic. He immediately bows and apologizes, clarifying it was a complete lie. His frantic reaction finally draws a giggle from her. To lighten the mood, he points out the boiling water on the fire. He rummages through his bag and pulls out a cup of instant noodles, shaking it to prepare the meal. The elf eyes the strange container suspiciously, asking if it is some kind of weird drug. The boy assures her it is just a hot drink. Betrayed by her own rumbling stomach, she decides to trust him and agrees to try the food. Upon tasting the broth, Secular lets out a loud shout, startling the boy. He is amused by her intense reaction as she immediately gulps down the entire cup. When she questions the nature of this delicious substance, he playfully claims it is a legendary corn soup forged by the gods themselves. However, the moment he admits it was just a discount item he bought on sale, her reverence turns to annoyance, and she throws a punch that he barely manages to dodge. The boy frantically apologizes to calm her down, offering another serving as a peace offering. Composing herself, she refrains from commenting further on his blasphemous joke about the gods. He finally introduces himself properly as Kudo Akira. In return, she introduces herself as Secular. Akira apologizes again for the earlier deception and offers her some salty bread to sate her hunger. Taking a bite, tears suddenly stream down her face. She remarks on the saltiness, masking her overwhelming emotions. Akira nervously observes that this seems to be her breaking point. She quickly wipes her eyes and offers a sincere thank you. He tells her not to mention it, suggesting they head home once she has calmed down. The two chat extensively during the trek back. Upon reaching the guild building, Akira announces their arrival and calls out to the receptionist, Ashley. She immediately asks about his earnings, to which he replies it was the usual amount. Ashley shifts the topic, teasing him about his lack of chivalry, though Akira deflects the lecture. He explains his day was spent exterminating vampire bats in the Dark Corridors until he grew sick of it. Ashley expresses disgust at such a smelly job, but Akira dismisses it as the standard work of a high-level adventurer. Ashley then turns her attention to the girl, mercilessly teasing Akira that such a cute companion is clearly out of his league. Spotting the slave markings, the receptionist suspiciously accuses him of using forbidden methods to acquire a girlfriend. Akira firmly denies the accusation, clarifying that they are not in a relationship. When the topic turns to her previous companions, Secular explains they were slaughtered by a four-armed beast. Akira confirms he arrived too late to save them, though he admits he lacks sympathy for her former captors. Ashley points out the complication. While her masters are dead, the slave contract bindings remain active. Secular falls into deep thought, realizing that after surviving such an ordeal, she has no desire to return to her previous life. Akira proposes a simple solution to the problem: casting Dispel. Both women raise their eyebrows in skepticism, as Dispel is a standard exorcism spell usually meant for basic magical effects. Ashley becomes frustrated by his suggestion, pulling out the Guildmaster's manual to cite the common knowledge that once a slave collar is attached, it is impossible to remove. Unfazed, Akira counters with a lecture on the fundamental nature of magic. He argues that magic is simply the act of spinning a web between cause and effect to create an outcome. Since the collar uses magic to bind Skrell, the effect, the link to the caster, the cause, still exists. Therefore, if he can sever the connection between the two, the effect should theoretically dissipate. The women are impressed by his logic but remain doubtful of the execution. Smiling confidently, Akira retrieves several bottles of high-grade magic potion from his bag and downs them all at once. Ashley shrieks in horror at the expense, noting that those potions cost 5 gold coins a pop. Skrell is equally shocked that he would waste such valuable items on a whim. Akira explains that his mana was completely depleted from defeating the dungeon boss and healing Skrell, necessitating the expensive recharge. With his energy restored, he places his hand toward the elf and casts the spell. With a sharp snap, the collar shatters instantly. Akira expresses relief that his theory held up, while Ashley chides him for not doing something so incredible sooner. Skrell stares at her hands in disbelief. She had resigned herself to a lifetime of slavery, yet now she stands completely free. Before she can get too emotional, Akira interrupts the moment, handing Ashley the crystals harvested from the four-armed goatman. He instructs the receptionist to use the valuable loot as a security deposit to register Skrell as an official adventurer. Ashley quickly agrees, realizing that once Skrell is registered, she will be under the guild's protection and can never be enslaved again. With the paperwork finalized, Akira prepares to leave. Skrell stops him, desperate to understand why he would spend a fortune to save a stranger. He shrugs it off with a smile, claiming he simply had some extra pocket change and didn't want their victory to leave a bad aftertaste. He jokingly adds that she can just earn money as an adventurer and pay him back someday. The story closes on the world of Dumerta, home to the people most loved by the goddess of beauty and war. While history expected to chronicle the tragic struggles of Skrell, fate had other plans. Instead, this has become the story of Kudo Akira, a dull-faced adventurer just trying to relax in another world. Kudo Akira continues his journey, arriving at the bustling markets of Domorta. Despite having visited countless times, he still feels a surge of excitement returning to the city, especially since he has brought a large haul of goods to sell. However, his enthusiasm dampens slightly when he enters a shop and finds a massive line snaking toward the counter. Realizing the wait will be long, Akira finds a seat and pulls a bag of potato chips from his inventory to pass the time. Before he can open them, an acquaintance named Miguel approaches, beer in hand, and casually asks how business has been. Akira offers a non-committal shrug, replying that his earnings are just so-so. He immediately shifts the focus to the strong smell of alcohol clinging to the other man, noting that he is drinking heavily in the middle of the day. Miguel shamelessly embraces the vice, calling day drinking the ultimate dream of a man, and offers to share his beverage. When Akira declines, the older adventurer teases him for having the taste of a child. Spotting the snacks, Miguel reaches out to grab some. Akira warns him to be careful, joking that the chips are hard enough to stab the inside of a mouth if one isn't careful. Ignoring the warning, Miguel takes a bite and is instantly floored by the intense salty flavor and satisfying crunch. He declares it an incredible snack perfectly suited for alcohol and laments that Akira doesn't drink to enjoy the pairing. Seeing his friend's enthusiasm, Akira hands over the rest of the bag and opens a second pack for himself. Miguel watches with envy as Akira starts munching on the new bag, eventually begging for a taste. Upon trying the new flavor, he is shocked to discover it is seasoned with black pepper. He marvels at the indulgence of using such a valuable spice merely for flavoring. He remarks that his team definitely needs to keep a stock of these on hand. Having satisfied his craving, Miguel suddenly shifts the tone of the conversation. He brings up the topic of Akira joining his team again. Akira sighs, dismissing it as the same old chat they always have. However, Miguel insists that this time is different, revealing that he has learned a crucial secret. He knows Akira is actually a mage. Kudo immediately attempts to deny the accusation, insisting that he couldn't possibly be a mage. Miguel waves off the denial, claiming there is no use in hiding it since the secret is already out. Panic sets in for Kudo, who demands to know where he heard such a rumor. Miguel reveals that he pieced it together himself and perhaps heard a whisper from Ashley, noting that Kudo always returns from quests completely unharmed, despite never carrying a weapon. Annoyed that his cover is blown, Kudo argues that being a mage isn't technically against guild rules. Miguel agrees, but slyly implies that it's only fine as long as he doesn't get caught. In a mock attempt to retaliate, Kudo raises his hand and jokingly calls out to report a guild violation, pointing an accusing finger at the naughty orange rank adventurer. Miguel just laughs, warning him that causing trouble for him would likely drag Ashley into the mess as well. Realizing he has been cornered, Kudo sighs, calling Miguel a scumbag for using his weaknesses as leverage to recruit him again. The older adventurer winks, pleased that Kudo is finally catching on, and eagerly asks what element he uses, hoping specifically for wind magic. Kudo tries to protest that he never agreed to join, but Miguel laughs off the objection, acting as if the decision has already been made. Giving in slightly, Kudo grumbles that he uses lightning, though he downplays it significantly, claiming it's only enough to give a small shock. Miguel is stunned, clarifying that he can actually shoot lightning. Between crunches of his potato chips, Kudo casually confirms it is real. Miguel realizes that this makes him a purple mage. Kudo internally critiques the world of Demerta for its obsession with color-coding magic, but Miguel is far more impressed. He points out that Kudo might be the world's first purple mage. Kudo quickly dismisses the title, insisting there must be others if one looks hard enough. Unconvinced and now desperate, Miguel grabs Kudo's hand, begging him to join the team. Kudo firmly rejects the offer, refusing to put in that kind of effort. Desperate to change the subject, he asks how Miguel's own career is going. The veteran adventurer lights up, boasting that as of yesterday, his team has climbed to the 258th rank. Kudo is genuinely impressed, noting internally that with over 50,000 registered adventurers, breaking into the triple digits is a major feat. Miguel orders another drink to celebrate, but his mood quickly shifts. He mentions that despite the rank increase, there has been a recent uptick in capable new faces, making the competition dangerous. Kudo tries to reassure him that he has nothing to worry about, but Miguel reacts vaguely. He slams his hand on the table, shouting a denial. Back at the tavern, Miguel continues listing the rising competition. He mentions the Secret Water Team, a formidable group boasting not one but two blue mages. Kudo listens intently as Miguel adds another name to the list, a solo adventurer known as the Long-Eared Tribe Killer, who has been blazing through the ranks at an alarming speed. Kudo's eyes go wide, realizing immediately that Miguel is talking about Skrell. Meanwhile, at the guild, whispers follow Skrell as she walks past the other adventurers. They recognize her as the rookie everyone has been gossiping about. Ignoring the stares, she stands before the request board and decisively selects a task for the day. Later, while out in the field, she decides to place stone markers to ensure she doesn't lose her way back. Spotting a large rock that seems perfect for the job, she attempts to lift it, but it refuses to budge. Dismissing the resistance as her imagination, she tugs again, only for the ground to erupt. The rock reveals itself to be a stone goblin, launching a surprise punch at her. Unimpressed by the ambush, she counters with a single devastating blow, shattering the monster into a pile of rubble instantly. Dusting off her hands, she complains that the creature was far too noisy. She begins sifting through the debris, hoping to find something of value to compensate for the unpaid fight. Distracted by her search, she fails to notice a small animal creeping nearby until it is too late. A monkey snatches a cylindrical sphere from the rubble, the very prize she was looking for, and darts away. Furious, Skrell sprints after the thief, shouting that the item belongs to her. The chase comes to a halt when the monkey lands on a high branch, taunting Skrell from above. Enraged by the creature's mockery, she charges forward as it leaps down to engage her. The beast dodges her initial punch and counters with a short dagger, but she manages to evade the blade and land a heavy blow to its back. The impact sends the monkey crashing into the bushes, where it instantly vanishes using a fog-based invisibility technique. Skrell struggles to track her enemy through the dense mist. The monkey launches a surprise attack from the front, aiming its dagger at her throat. She dodges just in time, though the blade grazes her neck, leaving a shallow cut. Emboldened by the hit, the creature tries to strike again, but this time Skrell is ready. She catches its hand mid-lunge, demanding the return of her property, and drives a powerful punch into its stomach. Overwhelmed, the monkey drops the stolen sphere and flees, vanishing completely. Moments later, a group of other adventurers arrives, drawn by the commotion. They find Skrell sitting on the ground, her dress torn from the skirmish. Blushing with embarrassment, she aggressively warns the concerned strangers to stay back, insisting she is fine and threatening to punch them if they come any closer. Back at the tavern, Miguel continues his relentless recruitment pitch. He declares that he won't stop drinking until Kudo agrees to join the team, citing the young mage's killer track record of surviving impossible odds. Realizing that logic won't work, Kudo decides to exploit the veteran's vice. He produces a bottle of Suntory whiskey, presenting it as a mythical creation from the god of alcohol. Miguel is skeptical that there is a drink in Dumerta he hasn't tried, but he agrees to a taste. The moment the aroma hits him, his doubts vanish. He takes a sip and is floored by the complex profile, a sticky sweetness followed by a sharp, powerful kick. He begs for more, but Kudo explains that the supply is limited. To make the drink last longer, the mage suggests serving it on the rocks. A waitress arrives to conjure ice magic for the glass. The scene turns awkwardly passionate as Miguel gazes lovingly at the ice-cold beverage, making Kudo uncomfortable with the sheer level of devotion the man has for alcohol. Just then, a massive beast man approaches the table. He introduces himself as Lion Maru, a senior adventurer whom Miguel addresses as Bro. Leon accepts a glass of the whiskey, his grip so strong that Kudo marvels at the sheer destructive power hidden in his hands. The large man turns his attention to Kudo, praising him for his recent heroics. Leon reveals that Ashley told him everything about how Kudo saved the slaves and helped them register as adventurers. Kudo is inwardly annoyed that the receptionist couldn't keep her mouth shut, but he deflects the praise, claiming he only did it for the experience points. Leon laughs off the excuse, reminding Kudo of the advice he gave him when they first met, to always do good deeds. Satisfied, the Beastman announces he is heading back into the labyrinth and departs. Miguel watches him leave, noting that it is rare for the stoic Leon to praise anyone so openly. With the conversation winding down and his bag of potato chips completely empty, Kudo decides it is time to make his own exit, confirming that he too is heading out for a dungeon dive. In the other world of Dumorta, a unique tension exists. Those who brave the depths of the underground Gondhakia labyrinth are collectively known as divers, named for the way they plunge into the abyss to face monsters that vary wildly in power depending on the floor. Kudo Akira emerges from one such dive, clutching a heavy pouch. His mind is focused on a singular, delicious goal, earning enough to buy a slice of high-level white-horn cow steak. He hurries back to the guild to cash in his loot, hoping for a perfect trade. However, when he dumps the contents onto the counter, Ashley is visibly disappointed. She stares at the pile of weak monster parts, horns, feathers, and teeth, and nearly cries from frustration. She scolds him for wasting his potential on trash mobs when the guild desperately needs funds, reminding him that he is capable of much more. Before Ashley can finish her lecture, another girl interrupts with a question. Seizing the opportunity, Kudo grabs his meager payment and attempts to sneak away. Ashley shouts that their conversation isn't over, but he ignores her and heads for the exit. His escape is halted by a tap on the shoulder. He turns to find Skrell looking far healthier than the last time they met. They catch up briefly, with the elf noting that Kudo is still getting chewed out by the receptionist as usual. When asked how she is enjoying her life of freedom, she admits it feels pleasantly normal, though she mentions she won't be returning to her home village just yet. Blushing slightly, she implies she has a specific reason for staying in the city. Kudo accepts her choice and mentions he is off to treat himself to a steak dinner, as it has been ages since he splurged on food. Skrell decides to tag along. When Kudo hesitates, worrying that paying for 2 people at a high-end restaurant is too expensive, she reveals 2 heavy pouches of gold. She playfully proves she has been earning plenty of money and insists on paying her own way. They board a lift to reach the restaurant. Inside the small space, Skrell attempts to return the money Kudo spent to buy her freedom. When he tries to refuse the repayment, she throws a flurry of playful punches from a distance, threatening him with undeserved punishment if he doesn't accept it. Reluctantly, he takes the money. As they stand in silence, Kudo notices her long, pointed ears twitching. Seeing his fascination, Skrell flushes red but gives him permission to touch them if he is so curious. He gently strokes her ear, marveling at the refined sensation, just as the lift arrives at their destination. Seated comfortably at the restaurant, Kudo orders 2 white-horn cow steaks. He mentally tallies the cost, 50,000 yen apiece, roughly the price of a high-grade potion, but decides the legendary taste is well worth the investment. Skrell waits with bated breath, eager to try the luxury dish for the first time. When the chef delivers the sizzling plates, the aroma alone is enough to make their mouths water. Kudo declares that his dream has finally come true and begins retrieving items from his bag. Skrell pauses, curious about the strange bottles he is lining up on the table. He introduces them as the 3 sacred treasures for a perfect steak: garlic, black pepper, and soy sauce. He demonstrates the preparation method, grinding a hearty amount of black pepper, slathering on a thick coat of garlic, and finishing it off with a drizzle of soy sauce. A waiter approaches to politely enforce the no outside food policy, but Skrell shoots him a glare so terrifying that the employee bolts away in fear, leaving them to their meal. Kudo prepares Skrell's steak with the same seasoning blend. Upon taking the first bite, both adventurers are floored by the flavor. The pungent scent of garlic fills their noses, supported by the refined kick of pepper and the savory explosion of umami from the soy sauce. The combination is so potent that surrounding customers stop eating just to stare at their table. Skrell agrees that this is the superior way to eat steak, enthusiastically pouring more sauce onto her plate. Kudo suggests mixing the soy sauce with the remaining melted butter to create a rich glaze. The resulting flavor is so intense that it nearly brings the elf to tears of joy. The peaceful feast is interrupted when Lion Maru bursts through the entrance, startling the staff. The massive beast man follows his nose straight to Kudo's table, shouting his name. Instinctively, Kudo cringes and begs not to be eaten. Leon sighs, reminding the mage for the 100th time that he is not part of his diet, though Kudo internally notes that a lion's assurance is hardly comforting. Leon explains that his sensitive nose was assaulted by an incredible smell, luring him in from the street. Sniffing the steak deeply, he begs Kudo to hand over the seasonings, offering to pay whatever price is necessary. Grateful for his senior's past help, Kudo agrees to give them to him for free. Before the exchange can happen, Skrell interrupts, demanding another serving before the supplies run out. Leon happily joins the table, ordering 5 steaks to start. The trio covers the meat in the special blend, devouring the meal with intensity. Skrell marvels at how soy sauce pairs perfectly with everything, while Leon roars his approval, claiming the unique saltiness has awakened his wild side. Watching the Beast Man tear into the 5th steak, Kudo makes a mental note to introduce him to wasabi soy sauce next time. Kudo sprints through the forest in a total panic, screaming internally about his misfortune. He questions why a high-level monster is chasing him in what is supposed to be a safe, low-level zone. As the beast crashes through the trees behind him, his mind flashes back to how this mess started. Earlier that day at the guild, Ashley had cornered him, placing a heavy hand on his shoulder. She demanded to know his plans, reminding him of her previous order to bring in real money for the guild. Kudo nervously tried to deflect, but she persisted until he announced he would head to the Green Forest ruins. Ashley approved, noting it was an appropriate and safe layer for him to earn a steady income. Cutting back to the present, Kudo regrets everything. He thought the Green Forest would be peaceful, but he was immediately ambushed by a stray monster. The beast attacks relentlessly, forcing him to dodge and weave through the mud. Kudo is terrified, worrying that the surprise attack might actually make him wet himself. As he rolls behind a large rock for cover, he realizes he is completely covered in filth, a fitting punishment for ignoring Ashley's advice about sticking to known routes. Peeking out from his hiding spot, he identifies the enemy as an orc. He is confused as orcs typically inhabit the Red Iron Gear mining site on the 13th floor, not the 5th. Realizing it must be a stray that wandered up, he takes a deep breath to calm his nerves. Deciding to end this quickly, he activates his Amethyst Lightning. Moving with blinding speed, he closes the distance and drives a thunder-infused punch directly into the orc's abdomen. The massive creature collapses instantly, dead on impact. Kudo stares at his hand, shaken by his own strength and the intensity of the encounter. He quickly harvests the orc's ear as proof and decides to head back before any other surprises appear. Bursting back into the guild, he shouts for Ashley, claiming he has serious bad news. The bustling hall falls silent. Ashley is confused, noting that he only just left. Kudo drops the severed ear onto the counter, explaining that he defeated it in the Green Forest ruins. Ashley's face goes pale. She immediately rings the emergency bell, issuing a guild-wide announcement warning all low-level divers to avoid the 5th layer due to the irregular monster sighting. Seeing Kudo standing there dripping with mud and sweat, she suggests he hit the showers immediately. He agrees, feeling soaked down to his underwear. On his way to the bathhouse, he runs into Skrell. She eyes his ruined outfit, asking what happened. He explains that he was jumped by an orc and fell into the mud during the fight. Connecting the dots, she realizes the emergency announcement was about him. He confirms it, trying to excuse himself to go wash up, but she follows him. When he asks what she is doing, Skrell simply states that she will help him. Kudo panics, insisting he can wash himself, but she argues that it is hard to get all the mud off his back alone. Despite his flustered protests, she grabs his hand and drags him into the washroom. Ignoring his embarrassment, she proceeds to scrub him and his gear clean with a determined efficiency. They eventually exit the bathhouse, with Kudo looking thoroughly refreshed but blushing furiously from the intimate encounter. Skrell dashes away, her own face red. Kudo sighs, thinking that the day has been eventful enough to skip any further adventuring. He tries to relax, but his peace is short-lived. He suddenly senses a massive surge of dark energy and mana nearby, causing him to groan in frustration at the terrible timing.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I listened and